What happens when you get two guys from the street who absolutely love to eat and give them a license to rant? You get your hosts, John Pizzi and Mikey Sausage.
Mr. Pizzi.
Mr. Sausage.
How are you, sir?
I'm very good. How are you?
Are you disheveled?
Disheveled? No, I'm okay. I just buzzed in.
Just so everybody knows, like he came in like 5 minutes before the show started. His hair looks good. I know he was eating something. He's lying.
Why do I have a piece of my egg foo young in my mouth?
No, I just know that you ate something. You can't.
I did. I just grabbed a cup of coffee and an egg roll.
What's going on? So
you know me. I'm a health nut.
Yeah. Okay.
How are you, Sausage?
I'm great. I feel really good today.
I feel great today too. Just very busy, really, really busy, which is all excellent day.
It's excellent, and that's you're gonna find a little bit that's what our next, what our guest thought also, that really, really busy was good, and then he made some really crazy decision. As
a matter of fact, I just finished reading Tony's book.
Yeah.
And before we even introduce him, though, this book, I love technology. I love anything tech. I like quantum computing. I like computers. I like video, audio, anything that has to do with anything mechanical and operational. And
you also like ghosts and Illuminati and the other world and psychics and mediums and all.
Yeah, I like anything outside the box, if you will. However,
you're an abnormal bloke.
If you wish. On the other hand, though, well, I actually like anything. Being a magician, though, I like magic. So magic, I could perform for people and fool them, and I know the secret and they don't. And it's nice fooling people and letting them believe what you can do.
There's no secrets in magic. Magic is magic. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, right. Except for when you go to sleep. That's the magic. No, but this is really interesting, too, because now this realm of computing has gone to such a point where you're trying to forecast what the future may be, and it's difficult to understand. And after reading, I read all of his book this weekend, and after reading Tony's book, I'm frightened of the future.
You're frightened?
I'm frightened.
I'm excited.
Excited?
Yeah.
It's exciting to a certain point, and then it falls off the cliff.
Because there was a little rumor they said in another 10 years, they may find a way where I can live another 20.
Yeah, well, but what is the quality of life?
I don't know. We're going to find out. I'm going to show you quality of life in a couple of minutes right now.
Well, that's what I want to see. Tell me about the quality of your life right now. How's the quality of your life as we speak?
I'm happy. I'm healthy. My mom and dad are doing okay. Everybody's good. My kids are doing really good. They're good people.
Right.
Life is good.
Do they have iPhones?
Doesn't matter. I'm happy waking up every day. And what am I going to do? I got to keep the other stuff out, and I can't worry about stuff until it happens to me. So that's how I'm going to do it. You're
taking one day at a time. You're living in the moment.
I'm just going to not worry about stuff until I need to worry about it.
Right.
Right?
You're a sage.
Yeah, sage. I'm a sage.
Nothing goes before you.
Or after me.
Nobody wants to be in front of you. Well, listen. This man is somebody I've been really wanting to get to come talk to us.
I know.
Long time.
I know.
And I've just, and he was kind enough to send me his book so I could read it and refresh myself on it. And so can we tell you a little bit about who's coming in, Sausage?
Yeah, you could tell me. You want to tell me?
You want to tell me? This is wonderful.
Okay.
He's an author, and his name is Tony Thorne. Right. And and this is, I'm reading off this description, which is interesting because somebody wrote about him that it's Tony Thorne's New Fact Against Fiction,
okay,
which is a book about the singularity.
Okay.
He's written other things. He's a brilliant man, a brilliant thinker. And even as we were speaking to him just a few moments ago, he was in deep thought. So yes. I'm really looking forward to.
Either that or he was sleeping. He said he takes a nap once in a while. So I don't know. We'll find out.
He was in deep thought, and I like to bring. And I don't even get into the other books he's written because he's written some other really wonderful things. But I'm not going to tell you what I think this singularity is. We'll ask Tony. But folks, we'd like to let in here today the wonderful author Tony Thorne, who's written the book The Singularity.
Hello, Mr. Thorne.
Hello there. Greetings from sunny Austria.
Austria. Can I call you Anthony or have to call you Tony?
Tony, please.
Okay, Tony, you got it. Because I'm, Italian guys, we say Anthony, Tony. Depends if you're in trouble or not with your mother. So we so Mr. Pizzi has said that you're this wonderful author and stuff, but I read a little about your biography, and I'd like to start a little bit at the beginning, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, I know that, why don't you tell me a little bit about your upbringing, your family as a young boy, where you were born, and how you wound up, I guess, take me to when you became an engineer, because that's your first step, right, into the foray of working.
Well, I was the eldest of 4 children. The next one down is my sister, still alive, and my very youngest brother is still alive. But my other brother died, unfortunately, a couple of years ago. I was born in Brentford, which is a suburb of London, and went to school there. My father had lots of different jobs traveling around, and I actually went to about 14 different schools.
Wow.
Before I was 14.
Wow.
Finally, I won a scholarship to, I suppose what we call a grammar school. You'd call it a high school, I guess.
So you had a scholarship where your parents didn't have to pay?
That's right. That's right. They couldn't. They couldn't.
So you did them. You lucked out by being intelligent.
Yeah, but it didn't end up like that, because the war came. My father was called up, and then he was invalided out, and I had to go to work to earn some money for the family.
Wow! So you left school?
I left school.
Wow!
And went into the army after.
And this is not
when
uncommon.
I was 18, I went in the army.
This is not uncommon for that time in history.
I used, when I was in the army, I had some problems and back problems and heaven knows what, but they didn't invalid me out. They kept me going. But I was in charge of a radio station, which was very interesting. This was a radio station that controlled a lot of ships dumping ammunition in the North Sea. Not the North Sea, sorry. The Irish Sea.
The Irish Sea, yeah.
The Irish Sea. And my job was to control the vessels and tell them where to go for the next day's loading. And my wonderful title was Birth Control Officer. but they
knew you were an intelligent guy, Tony. They gave you a good job. I gave you a good job.
Yeah. Then I left the army and I got another scholarship. And then I went and did a university course, engineering, in London, and got married at the same time, roughly.
Oh, so you got married at the same time you started college?
Yes. Yes.
Wow. And how old?
Wait a minute. I thought he was intelligent.
Nah, he's in stop. He's got a wonderful wife.
I know. She's a wonderful cook. I understand.
Yeah, I said that. I said that.
Sorry, you're talking about my second wife now.
Oh.
My first wife was a wonderful woman, but she died very young. She caught a rather nasty.
I didn't know that.
So I won't go into that. And yes, that was about 35 years ago.
Oh, okay. So
and then I met my present wife, and we've been married now for 32 years.
Wow.
And it all adds up to quite a few years.
So you had a couple of long marriages there, Tony. That's pretty
two,
pretty impressive. Yeah. So you became an engineer. That was your first job, right?
Oh yeah, yes.
And I believe I said something that you grew up in Chatham. And
yes.
And
Chatham, that's where I started work in nuclear engineering. Yeah.
You started work in engineering, and I was somebody from Boston that kind of like went after you to hire you?
Yes, he did, and then I ended up then being a European chief, CEO of a Boston company. I ran all their operations in Europe. But before that, I was in this small research and development company, which I built up, and specializing in all sorts of things, including low temperature surgery. And that's what the MBE was for.
Then I learned something interesting about you that kind of like struck with me a little bit, because my uncle kind of sort of had the same thing. You went into some kind of profession around nuclear energy,
Yes.
nuclear,
Yes.
right? You were in that area, and my uncle was a big shot in that department in General Electric at the time. In Schenectady, and they ran the nuclear program for the United States, the submarines. They did all the submarines, and then he got into power turbines, for the Middle East and for India and Saudi Arabia, and he was a nuclear physicist. He was a smart guy, and I know that you got into that nuclear world.
That's right. Yeah, I specialized in laboratory equipment for nuclear laboratories, ancillary stuff.
And then that's it. And then Mr. Pizzi, Mr. Thorne got sick of the rat race. Is that when you went into your own business as kind of, what was it? Would it be a software engineer? Would it be? In artificial intelligent robotics? Am I right?
Semi, I would say, back in those days. But it was learning software, definitely, yes.
Now you learned how to program. You didn't know how to do this.
I learned how. I taught myself how to program in the early languages.
Okay, but how old were you? How old were you when you took this profession on in your own business?
Oh,
well, even the decade would be the decade.
60, about 60.
No, I know.
Wow.
Yeah. So 60 years old, Peace.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, were you getting tired of the rat race, Tony? Is that what happened at that time?
That was it, yes. I really was, yes.
Yeah, he got tired.
What happened?
Was his brother? Were your brothers academic as well, or you just happen to be different than the others?
No, I seem to be sort of unique in some ways. No, they're not. They're quite a normal, ordinary family. But I'm just a moment. Can I just stop something?
Sure.
Okay. That was an advertising.
No. Someone said something's going on with the sound. I don't know if something. Yeah.
Okay, now.
So then he did that. And now, when did you decide? Well, this is what it was. I could tell it a little bit because I want to bring it up to the books and the stuff. He would travel a lot, and could correct me if I'm wrong. And as he was traveling, John, he started write. I guess it was a little, cathartic for you or whatever. You started to write down different ideas and blurbs and blogs and stuff. Is that true, Tony? So is that what happened when you were traveling?
Yes, I was traveling a great deal. That was in Ford all over the world, including America, of course. And in fact, I flew around the world twice.
Wow, you flew around the world twice.
And I was able to do some writing on the aeroplanes, you see, and that got me going again. Began with poetry.
Poetry, yes,
yeah,
poetry.
Yeah.
Poetry. And I believe his first foray, Mr. Pizzi, was a satirical book, right? Something about being a CEO or something, Tony?
That's right, how to be a CEO, yes. Yes. It was semi-autobiographical, and it did very well. Published in England, did quite well.
So you were surprised?
Still available.
You were surprised it did well?
Yes. I think my relatives were mostly.
Well, maybe Tony, maybe besides being smart, he's been pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I don't know. You kind of make your own luck. That's what I believe. But I believe that he was writing all these things down. Now he started turning out these books, Pizzi, and I know it became to him like at that time it was a little different. Like he said today, everybody wants to be an author and everybody's writing and everybody's publishing.
True.
And
True.
They used to chase you down then for material. And I guess they still do, but I think he's self-published now later in life, right, Tony? Are you self-published?
Yes.
Right.
Partly
self-published.
Partly.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's where we are, Mr. Pizzi. Now I know you read one of Mr. Thorne's books.
I read a little bit of everything, but I read all of the synchronicity.
So I'm interested about that. Why don't you take that over?
Well, actually, I don't know if you've actually looked at, I mean, the singularity is, first of all, I guess the first thing we should do is get a definition from Tony as to what the singularity is. I think I already know, but for our guests.
Sounds good.
Tony, please tell us, what does the singularity mean?
I'll describe it. Following on from the smart gadgets that we have today, the next stage of development will be what's called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. This is when a machine is equal in intelligence to a human being or slightly better. And that's coming. We'll have that in less than 10 years now. And that'll be a new life form. The singularity is what comes after that, because it won't stop development and they will develop themselves. And it means that we're going to have entities, creatures on this earth who are infinitely more clever than we are, and we won't be able to even understand them and know what they're doing. So the question is, what will they do about us? That is the singularity, and it's coming.
That Pizzi worries about that all the time.
Well, no, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it all the time. But you know, reading his book it starts off on this level of.
No, but you tell me all the time, like the robots are going to take over and then they're going to kill us all.
Well, I don't.
Not necessarily. No, I didn't say that.
No, not you, Tony. John.
Oh, I see.
John,
Yeah.
John said that to me, and he said yesterday he went to get coffee in Dunkin' Donuts, and he wished there was a bunch of robots working there because it took him 20 minutes to get coffee.
Well, that's what I mean about the good part of it. I mean, once we get that artificial intelligence, I really want to put him in all those low-level jobs so I could get my coffee quickly. But the problem is from what reading Tony's book, it evolves slowly. Well, actually, it evolves exponentially, but it happens in little steps. One of the examples he gave in the books, which I really found fascinating, made me think, and I don't know if it's his or not, but it's a wonderful idea, was he said, take like a large piece of paper and keep folding it in half and folding it in half and folding it in half. And you start to see how something that's large gets smaller and smaller, but taller and taller. And if you think about the way computers move so quickly over time, they grow in tremendous rates. Matter of fact, Tony has in his book how quickly they grow. And it gets to a point where it's uncontrollable. It gets to a point where we become the inefficient things around our machines that we've developed to serve us. And there's hours of conversation right within that little slice of pie. So Tony, my question to you then would be, how long do we got, and how does this progression evolve over the next 10 years? What are we looking for?
Well, as I said, you're going to have intelligent life forms in 10 years, maybe less. Some people think they're here already, quite honestly. The singularity part will probably be at least 3 to 5 years later than that. So the biggest problem, I think, though, is the one that we're facing in less than 10 years, is what happens when manufacturers can buy a robot machine which will do the work of 3 people, non-stop working all day, 7 days a week, for no money. They're going to jump at it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Of course they are. And then they'll discover that because they don't have any workers anymore, nobody can buy anything because they don't get paid. So then what's going to happen? Well, clearly, there's got to be, believe it or not, you're going to be headed straight into socialism because you've got to give everybody a basic income.
That's true.
So that they can live and then buy things. It's a very complex subject.
Yeah, think about that, Pizzi. You want robots to serve you coffee.
Yeah.
But if we have robots doing everything, who's going to buy the stuff that they're doing?
Exactly.
Well, Tony suggests,
and that's the problem that people are not facing up to.
I hear a lot, especially here in the United States. We had a very tumultuous election, And
and
a lot
I've studied it very carefully, believe me, yes.
A lot of people, you know, that I've watched, not a lot, but I mean, some people I've watched, they're worried about automation. And, you know, they're talking about we're going to get these jobs and this many jobs, and we're going to create this much jobs. But as automation takes over, what are you going to do with these people? And there's actually a guy on Fox News, and his name is Greg Gutfeld, and he's always saying this statement: the automation is going to put a lot of people out of work, and then what do you do with them? So
absolutely,
that's the problem that we should be solving right now.
Exactly, you're going to have to entertain them somehow. Otherwise they're going to take up all sorts of entertainment. Some of it not necessarily very nice.
You understand, Pizzi? I mean, what do you do with these people?
Well, you know what I'm thinking about though, after reading his book, he was making a suggestion in the book that as this evolves and people do not have as much work as they're supposed to because the machines are taking over with algorithms all the things that we do. Like, in other words, if you're a person that's a Wall Street broker, the algorithms eventually will do it better. Medical people that are doctors, they'll make algorithms that you could go over to an iPad type of doctor information and tell
Wall Street's gotten rid of a lot of it. Wall Street's like that now. I mean, I had a cousin that traded foreign currency. Computers trade it now. Everybody lost their job. So
but he's saying it happens for everything. If it happens with everything, if algorithms take over the processing of all the things that people were doing, people are not working. And if they're not working, what do they do? And Tony was making the suggestion in his book that what will happen is that the government will end up giving everyone a minimum wage check to stay home.
Wow.
And basically be on, I don't know if you want to call it a welfare service.
Oh, so it's going to be a socialist system?
Yeah, a socialist system where everyone gets paid the same amount of money to stay home. And then if they choose to work and do other things and make additional money, they can. And that creates like this really frightening looking future. If you think things are bad now with Hillary and Trump, it doesn't seem better and later after this point of no return that he's suggesting.
It's crazy.
But there are a lot of other problems because the terrorist situation, they're not going to go away. What are they going to do about this? Are they going to get control of them? There's an awful lot of unknowns that nobody seems to be doing very much about thinking. But I hope they will.
Tony, you know, as I was reading your book, you know, this is another thing that I found fascinating about his book. As I was reading your material, I jotted down a couple of notes, and I have to say one thing that's really impressive is the fact that you put a couple of stories in the book, especially the one with Clayton, the very first story in the book about Clayton and how his life evolves amongst this technology. So Tony gives a lot of information in his book about how this all happens with this technology moving so quickly towards us and how it becomes unraveled. But by describing it as a story, it clearly makes you empathize with people more and understand it, ingest it much more easily. Can you paraphrase quickly what that story is with Clayton?
Yes, of course. Yes, he's a successful businessman and decides to emigrate to a planet which is virtually a water planet with just a few small islands. And there's a race of natives living on one of the islands, and he decides to go there as well. And if they become friendly, they begin to treat him as a god because of all his advanced equipment that he's got. And he also has an AGI robot, artificial general intelligence robot, which is pretty well equivalent to his own abilities. And it does everything. It heals some of the natives. And then one day, of course, I don't really want to spoil the story for people, but let's say this. The makers of that robot didn't realize that it could become a god. And the natives in the end adopted it, much to the discomfort of the man who brought it there. That's the story. That's that one.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I think this story really describes more clearly how these things happen to us as people. Another thing, too, right now we live in an environment where AI is in all the movies. I mean, the movie AI that was out was wonderful. I've watched it several times. It's creepy. And then you have Westworld and Future World and Mars and all of these sci-fi type movies where they show you how much control machines have and that they always go out of control and end up hurting us as humans. When I see all of this surrounding us, and I always find that sci-fi somehow dictates the reality of the future anyway. Can you comment on that as well? Do you believe that's the case?
Oh, definitely. I would say the most marvelous exponent of that is Arthur C. Clarke. Good old Arthur Clarke. I knew him. And he wrote a lot of stories which things are coming to pass now. Some of them he was too optimistic. Those people who've seen the visits of the big spaceship to Jupiter, for example, 2001, and the sequels for that was far in advance of what's really happening today. But it'll come. All that sort of thing is on the way, that's for sure.
I can't believe you knew Arthur C. Clarke. I'm like, oh my God, yes, you actually knew him.
Oh, yes.
And Childhood's End.
I was in the same, yes. Oh, yes, that is a fantastic.
That's a creepy, I watched that movie recently.
What I did too, wonderful.
It was frighteningly great.
Yep, it was.
But you actually knew Arthur C. Clarke. I mean, like, whoa.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
You know, I don't want my life.
I was at a convention with him when I was a lot younger, of course, then. And I was at a convention with him, and I was in a fancy dress as Dracula. And I remember coming up behind him and tapping him on the shoulder, and he turned around to me and he said, "Ye gods!"
Ye gods!
See him now. I can see him now. Yeah.
Now, what about there's a guy named Philip Rosedale, and he's the founder of a online interactive game called Second Life, where people live their lives out in a virtual environment as a what do you call it? Not an icon, avatar.
Yeah, that's right. It's an avatar. It's Second Life. I'm quite familiar with that. My wife joined that right in the early days when it first began, but she doesn't now. But that's one of the things that the masses may well get very deep into, and there could be a lot more of them. And did you see the film Matrix?
Oh my goodness, hundreds of times.
Yeah, well, there we are. You see, there was a perfect example of what you do with the people: put them to sleep and let them live in an artificial world all the time.
Do you believe that we're possibly there now?
No, I don't think that'll happen.
No. Well, do you know, that's a good question, because you're a deep thinking person. What do you have religious beliefs?
No, I do not.
So you're like a scientist.
Yeah. I think so, yes. No, I'm not afraid so. I'm proud of the fact that.
He's Tony's 90, John. He's going to be 91 in August.
Yes, that's right.
Wow, he looks great.
Right. And he looks great. And Tony, I mean, it's not more, but I would have to say you're more towards the end of your life than the beginning. I don't want to, wish you bad ill will or anything. I'm just saying, are you? Do you wish you could live another 50 years to see what happens, or you're?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's even if I can look after myself, and my wife will help me for the next 10 years, which doctors said I should be able to. I have a very good chance of lasting a lot longer than that, because things will be improved. AGI robots will be able to solve all our medical problems, and of course there'll be these nanorobots that they put in a syringe and inject into your arm, and they go around and cure everything inside you.
They're doing a lot of robotic operations.
Oh, that's happening. Yeah, some of that's happening now.
Yeah, they're doing a big prostate operation, robotics, and.
But like I said, if we all live to be 120, what are they going to do about the pensions and all the health service and that sort of stuff?
So Pizzi, we're gonna have a big problem. We're gonna live longer. We're going to have robots doing our job. We're going to have the government giving us, I don't know. I don't know whether I want to live or die.
No more free cheese. You know, no, but it's funny. You just asked Tony, you say, you know, would you like to live an extra 50 years? And he says, yes. But after reading some of the things that could possibly happen, would you want to live another 200 years?
Yeah, but he's just curious to see what
will we make it through? Will we make it
through? Some people believe that the first person who is immortal is living at the moment.
Wow.
Some people believe that.
Well, Tony, where do we invest in right now to become the millionaires and the Donald Trump's billionaires of the technology?
You want me to rephrase that?
In other words, right now, the future is coming at us very quickly with all the computing. And it's coming at us so quickly. There's people that are going to be making millions and billions of dollars in this. Somebody will be the Coca-Cola of AI. Somebody will be, right. Who do you think?
It'd probably be the ones that are in it already. I mean, Elon Musk is well on the way, isn't he? Obviously. And you've got all the others, Bill Gates. They're all well on the way, and they'll just get even more wealthy. Can't avoid it.
What about all this genome business, all this DNA, and that's the future too, right, Tony?
Yes, it is, and this could lead to human enhancement. You would not only have artificial superior intelligent robots, but you can have people as well. If you have a sufficient chip implanted in your brain, which has got access, say, to the internet directly, you'd become an expert at everything and be one hell of a fellow.
I never thought about that. That's a pretty wild thought. Have a chip in your head that just makes you.
People think that's more likely than the first fully intelligent robot.
I may be, but I was talking more of like, you know, you're going to be able to get to pick your son or your daughter, which you can do right now. You want a boy or a girl, right? So I want blue eyes and blonde hair, and I want a smart kid, or I want an athletic kid, or I want someone 6'5" or 6'2".
For what? If we're all going to be on a social program, what's the point?
No, but I'm just saying this is what they're doing right now, Pete. This is what I mean. Right now, if you want to have a boy or a girl, you can do that. You can go they put you in a petri dish, and your boy or your girl are started there, and then they in vitro the mother, and then it's on.
Or twins or triplets or quadruplets all at the same time if you wanted to.
Yep.
Get it over with quickly.
Yeah, but now I go back to put a chip in your head, in your brain, right?
It's going to match your shoulder, sausage.
Yeah. You put a chip in your brain that's connected to the internet, and you're just any subject that comes up, you got the answer. Man, I win a lot of money on Jeopardy. But you know,
what good is it? What defines us as human beings?
You're right. That's the problem.
I think what defines us is like, besides the physical biology, is we supposedly have some sort of a soul that's in us. And
I mean, that's a spiritual belief.
Well.
So,
that is a spiritual belief.
Yeah. So if you don't have a spiritual belief, it's like Tony said that, you know, he really doesn't have a spiritual.
Tony, what defines you as a human being, considering what's going to happen in the future?
Well, some people think there won't be any human beings.
Wow.
Well, then if there's aliens that actually come down from outer space, and people think these green aliens and all of that.
I don't think he's saying aliens so much. I think he's saying
if there are any aliens visiting us, they will be machines. Think about it. They're bound to be
machines.
Because other life forms will have probably expanded in the same way that we've been doing, and they'll be taken over by machines in the end. And machines are the only things that could live, you might say, live long enough to come and visit us in all those distances. They're enormous.
I mean, right now they have this Domino's in Japan or in China that's fully operated by robotics. I mean, it makes your pizza, packs it, takes the order, puts the cheese on, it puts it in the oven, takes it out, boxes it, and does everything but deliver it. I mean, that's crazy. What about cloning? Someone in the audience was asking about cloning. I believe Gabrielle was asking about cloning.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you feel about cloning? What do you about that topic, Tony?
No, I haven't gone into that very much, but clearly it's possible it happens now. We had that sheep, Dolly, the sheep was cloned, and I think it's being done routinely nowadays, and there's no reason why it can't be done with a human being.
You think it's that?
You think
it's being done now under the hat, Tony? You think it's being?
Oh yes, in some countries.
I mean, just think about, like, you know, you lose your, let's not talk about children. Let's just say you lose your favorite dog or your favorite cat. They said that they'll be able to bring that animal back to you, you know. So, I mean, that's crazy. I don't know if that was in a movie or not a dream. Something like that.
You've reminded me of one of my early stories about a couple of kittens which were virtually immortal. And they were produced by cloning.
Immortal kittens?
Kittens. Two
little kittens. Immortal? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that was a story I wrote some time ago.
You're listening. He has that English accent. So.
Yeah. I have the Brooklyn accent. He has the English
accent. Yeah.
I remember when I first went to Germany and I bumped into a bunch of elderly American ladies. First time I'd met anybody from America. And one of the women asked me something, and then suddenly she turned around in a very loud voice to all the others, and she said, "Hey, come over here and listen to the funny accent this guy's got." And I said, "Madam, I am not the one with the funny accent. You are."
Now, Tony, you know, something else I read inside Tony's book, I made a note of this on my phone when I was reading his book. This is interesting too. You mentioned in your book about these new batteries made, I think, with aluminum. Was it aluminum graphite or aluminum?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. That first came out. A big thing about that in 2015, and there's not been a damn thing about it since. Somebody has been very, very quiet about it, but it's incredible. You can charge up a battery. The prototypes, they were charging them up in about 10 minutes. That's exactly what free walking robots need. Otherwise, that's what they want.
You could just charge it in 10 minutes and run for the day. There was also something in your book about silicene thin wafer computer chips.
Yeah.
Which is another higher degree. It's thinner and smaller and more efficient.
Yes, that's right. And it's a sort of mesh type molecule, similar to the buckyballs, you know, the graphene material made from graphite.
And what do you
think?
Like
a net mesh.
A net mesh, and that's similar to the brain.
Yeah, you could. It's very good conducting and non-conducting properties as you want them.
Now, a gentleman like you, what do you think of Ray Kurzweil? One
of my heroes.
Right.
He doesn't write fiction, but he makes predictions, and he got about a 90% hit rate. He's really something. Which
is unbelievable.
Yeah, he's an amazing person. And he and Elon Musk, they're a real pair. Yeah. I envy them.
You also mentioned in your book that we're going to have the capability, not in a too distant future, to be able to take the human mind and download it into a computer.
That's possible.
And when that happens, are we human at that point?
Were we before?
I don't know.
No, we're going to see all the porn that you watched, Pizzi.
Yeah. No, it could be quite difficult in another 20, 50 years to know what is human, what isn't.
Wow.
The big thing which we've hardly mentioned is that when a robot brain becomes equal or better than a human brain, does the owner of it have free will? Is he self-conscious, aware of himself, like we are and like animals are and so on?
Wow.
That's a very interesting point.
It's a great point.
So download someone's brain into a robot.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happens to your senses?
No, he's talking about the awareness.
Just how are you aware that you're in a different in body. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you would be. Did you see that film? With Kirk Douglas, I forgot the name of it now, where he was on a planet with his wife only and a robot, a killer robot. Did you see that one?
No, I don't believe I did.
Oh, that was a marvelous film. That was a robot with a human brain. The human brain was in the jar, pushed into the top of the robot, and the rest of it was purely robotic. And that was one hell of a good film.
You see, but again, though, it brings us back to the same question. If you put the brain of someone's brain onto a hard drive or a silicon chip or anything, what denotes it being human at that point? What's the difference between us and the machine that's attending to our thoughts?
Good question.
I mean, I don't want my life to end on a delete key, you know, as a physical being. But if you're a virtual being, what denotes me from that machine? I have an awareness. I believe I somehow have a soul, perhaps, or an invisible intelligence that surrounds us as human beings. And this invisible intelligence is in our universe. Would that not be in a robot?
Very, very deep questions, and a lot of argument going on about that. Like you said, the concept of the human soul.
It goes back to the soul. But you say you're the man who's writing the book. So, and you say that you don't believe that you have a soul.
No,
so
I don't.
If you do not have a soul, when you die, what happens? Your physical biology just ceases and everything that was in this hard drive is gone?
Yes.
It just dissipates in a way.
What happens if you stamp on an ant?
I cry.
I meant the ant.
I love my aunt. You don't know her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
no,
I mean,
I'm afraid it's just oblivion.
That's almost sad. It's almost sad to think that, though.
Yeah.
Don't you think? We saw such
Tony, are you afraid, Tony? What if you're wrong?
I hope I am.
If you're wrong, I don't know what's good. If you're wrong, that guy may say, "Hey, Tony, you said there was nothing here. I have no room up here for you. You're going to hit the elevator down button."
Well, Tony, if you take off this planet first, can you please contact Sausage and I somehow, give us a sign, and let us know everything is okay, and to stay around and enjoy the AI?
Yeah, I'll have to try that. Yes, I'll think about that.
We want a secret word like Houdini.
Yeah, like Houdini. Then we have to have a secret word between us. It'll be, we'll call it, well, whatever you want to call it. You know,
maybe they'll put my brain in a machine. You never know, man.
Maybe.
I can watch what goes on then. I'm very curious about what's going on.
I mean, if now, how about that as a question? Like now you get to a point and they say, "Hey, listen, if your body is breaking down and we can't save you, would you like your brain downloaded onto something else? Maybe you have that choice. Maybe sometime in your life.
I think it could happen. Yeah.
Right? And then maybe about how's this? We have some of the most remarkable people in the world that you never want to lose and you want to keep them forever. So take their brain and download it to something else. You have them around forever. So, I mean,
it's wonderful thought. The trouble is there's a lot of people with a lot of money who would want to do it as well. You might not want
You know, Tony.
No names.
Tony mentioned inside the book, too, just what you're saying, Sausage, but he also mentioned that would maybe evolve into something where you could actually go and visit the most brilliant minds in the world. Maybe perhaps it'd be like a museum, and you go to the museum and you have lunch with Aristotle or Bach or Beethoven.
That's crazy.
And it's in a virtual, even though they're a virtual person, you could interact with them and learn information from them.
That's possible as a virtual person, but obviously the brain record of all those people is gone now, and there's not much you can do about that.
Well, there are people
you can simulate them.
But if you took all the information someone has written and made and behaviors and then put it in, right? Yeah. You know, and also we have to thank Tony for even being here this time, because right now in Vienna it is I believe 1 o'clock in the morning.
1:45, almost 2 a.m.
That's right, 1:45.
Do you normally go to?
I'm still quite lively.
Surprisingly, but I am. Yeah. How did even even as time goes on now, what do you? This is something I think about all the time when it comes to machines. Machines, even if your idea of the future could possibly be that there's lots of machines doing most of the work and a lot of people not working, this machines need to be attended to. Things need to be repaired. There's upgrades. Get to a point where the machines are self-replicating to a point where we don't have to do anything?
That's right. I mean, it's not. If a robot could be built to be as intelligent or more intelligent than a human being, then it could do all the repair work that's needed.
The grudge work.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, we will, no doubt about it. I'm afraid it's true. Humanity is going to become redundant. I think it'll happen in 50 years. Absolutely, totally. And a lot of people agree with that.
Let's take some of these job things. I understand how algorithms can replace many jobs that people do.
Yes.
But suppose a person is a dance teacher. Can that person lose that job as well as the person that did the Wall Street predicting of stocks?
Possibly, but it could be that people would prefer a human being to teach them. And after all, that's something that people could do for no money at all because they don't need the money.
That's a good question. So there probably are some things, John. Maybe that's where the people make the extra money.
Well, imagine I'm a comedian, so imagine a robot with a little robot puppet on his arm, going, "Hey, hello, my name is."
Some people think, why would you need money? Because if robots could make anything, not only that, but I mean, I'm sure you know about 3D printing.
Yes.
Well, 3D printing is becoming incredible. With nanotechnology added to it, you're going to be able to print food just from any old ingredient. You can be able to print food.
I can see that happening.
Print anything. Print anything.
Kind of like the old Star Trek.
Why would you need money?
That's true.
Right.
I mean, you know, now with all this cryptocurrency and all this other stuff, and people, I mean, I think the money's going to get obsolete anyway. But Tony, let me ask you, from the time, let me see, so you're 90 years old now. So let's say in your lifetime, if you had to choose one of the greatest technological advancements that you've seen so far, you think you could give me an answer to that? What you think, one or two? You could even give me a couple if you want. What do you think is to
me the most important invention of the last 100 years has been the flushing toilet.
The flushing toilet.
Yeah.
Of course. What else would it be?
That has saved more lives than anything else. Especially when you're in a hurry.
Did he say lives or wives?
However, I would say obviously the wheel. You can use the wheel. You can do anything without wheel.
The wheel, yeah.
But of course, the big thing, of course, is the computer. I tell you, I totally transformed everything.
Please, I read a lot of Roman history, right?
Yeah.
And the Romans, you know, had a lot of technology in there. They had hot water, running cold and hot water, and they had aqueducts bringing water down from the mountains. And I mean, they were really advanced. But that's a good point, by the way. There's an example of how civilization can kill you off. Yeah, they had all their pipes made of lead, which poisoned them all. Yep. Well, one wild thing is when they made streets, they didn't know how to make them curved. So their streets would be angled straight and then angle. It wouldn't be a curve. They could not create it. It's the craziest thing that you.
Why couldn't they create the curve?
I don't know. It's, if you read about it, it's the one thing, you know.
It doesn't make any sense.
I'm telling you, Roman streets were not curved. They weren't. So, and then another thing, John, they had, well, they started getting, I mean, just think about how advanced they were back then. The building with the hole in it, the Pantheon.
Yeah.
I
thought you meant my roof.
They were using, you know, cement and concrete, and they added lightweight material, knowing that in those times that they couldn't handle that dome. I mean, just back then, the technology, that's why a lot of people said they believe aliens came down and helped them, right? The Egyptians, right?
Oh, with the pyramids and all that. Yeah. What is your take on that, Tony?
I don't think that. No,
oh, really?
No, like I said before, I don't really see how living biological aliens could ever visit us, frankly. The distances are just far too great, unless you can travel faster than light. Well, who knows? And there's no point about trying to go into a black hole and out the other side. You'd end up like a string of spaghetti, as you probably read. So I think, like I've said, the aliens would be machines. That's all you can expect. Machines.
That's interesting too, because when you see, not that I want to go into the alien discussion, but when you see people that say they've been abducted or met or whatever, they a lot of them claim that they've had these little gray people come to them and they were very cold and machine-like. So it's almost like they're machine biological beings that they've met. If there's any truth to it, who knows? I mean, who really does know? It's a crapshoot. But
nobody knows.
Nobody knows. But it's interesting that you're so pragmatic.
Yeah, you've got people who believe it and people who don't believe it, and they'll never agree with each other, obviously.
Yeah, it's like the left and the right.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now the next thing is, Tony, is I know at your age, do you plan on writing more books?
Oh, well, at the moment I'm sort of up to my ears in editing. I'm doing some changes to things and playing around. The Singularity book, I would more or less reissue that about every year and a half to 2 years with what's going on, keep it up to date, you know. That's one of the problems, by the way, of writing near future science fiction. Time catches up with you before you get the damn thing published. It's happened already. Wow. When I started writing one book of mine, there was no such thing as a smart telephone. And the invention of them bypassed me before the book I was writing about was able to be published. Oh, that's tricky. But it's an interesting subject, though, near future.
Yeah, just think. I like it. Just think about that piece, like him being a kid, like you know, even 50. I mean, 40 years ago, thinking you have a phone you could walk around with. You know, I mean, it's crazy. You know,
but nobody sees. I don't think anyone sees it coming because it's all evolving on top of you, and you're going through your life with these things coming in slowly. You know, like when I was, I remember as a kid, very young, we used to have on the streets come in a man with vegetables on a horse and carriage, and he would come to ring his bell, and there was a knife sharpening man.
Yeah, a knife sharpening guy with the bell ringing.
With the bell, and he would sharpen your knives for you. And then there was a vegetable cart that would come down. It was the ice cream man, and I remember as a
milk delivered.
Yeah, right. And I also remember my family telling me when they were kids, they had the ice man come. They would come in big blocks of ice and put it in the ice box.
That's right.
Right now, you look at that, and you look and you move forward to today, where every person in the world is walking around with this. Every person in the world has this.
Easy. You want to hear a funny ice block story?
Me too.
There you go.
So I'm going to tell you a funny ice block story. You know, my family is in the wholesale meat business. My great grandmother and grandfather were butchers and stuff. So back then you needed ice. There was no refrigeration. They used to put ice on top of the refrigerators. Right. There you go. So the iceman was delivering to my grandfather at the time, my father's father. And what he used to do, Pizzi, he used to core out the center of the ice and steal it and take it and put it on top. And he would be able to sell much more ice by the end of the day by stealing a core out of every one until my grandfather caught him. And my grandfather, who was a crazy man from the army, threatened his life and he gave him free ice for the year.
Get out of here.
Yeah, true.
There are entrepreneurs everywhere. Very interesting story.
True story. They would core out the center. That's how they would steal. Out of every person, they core out a center and they would have so much more ice to sell. Isn't that crazy?
Maybe you should do that to your sausage. Take a little piece of everyone's sausage.
That's a good one. I like that.
No, but it just goes to show you, you know, people are always looking to get over it. And that's the human mentality. Whereas if you had a computer processing, doing the work to bring ice to somebody for the job, they wouldn't think about the conservation and saving that to make more profit on you unless you gave them an algorithm to do so, like your mind.
Oh, yeah. I could get into a whole nother subject asking Tony about climate change, but I don't even want to go there.
Well, just quickly, what do you think, Tony, about climate change?
Well, it's obviously happening, despite what certain people think. It's definitely happening. I mean, it's on record. The last 7 years, the temperature's gone up every year by about 1 degree, I think it is. It's going to happen quicker than you think. And when people start to get flooded every year, which is beginning, it's happening already.
Tony, there's a gentleman who wrote a book called Not by Fire, but by Ice. And he makes a claim that, I don't know if you've heard this book. I've forgotten the name of the author at the moment, but it's called Not by Fire, but by Ice. And he makes the claim that we're actually going into an ice age and not a warm down.
Well, I suppose there's one person.
I guess we'll find out, or we won't.
Yeah, or maybe we won't. You're quite right. I don't know. I haven't heard that one. No.
Yeah. Well, it's just an interesting concept, and he's just got the opposite on it. I read the book, and he makes a lot of points for it. But the whole thing is that no matter where we are on the timeline of technology as we grow, and you've seen a lot happen in your life, and you're telling us what the future may be. You don't seem to be as dire about it as actually your book said. The book doesn't. I'm not saying that the book is dire, but it gives you a scenario that's not really easily consumable. Do you believe in your heart that as time progresses in the next 20, 30 years, and this all starts to happen, that
he said 10 years?
Yeah, well, he's saying in 10,
yeah,
or more. Do you really believe, though, that we will go into this kind of position, not have the things set up in line to prevent this from happening, and also not having?
Well, the trouble is this is progressing all over the planet, and that means you're going to get a lot of different ones with different algorithms, but all trying to do more or less the same thing. But they're all going to be different. And that's what worries me more than anything else, because that makes a lot of room for accidents waiting to happen. It's impossible to me. I can't see how they can control it. There is talk of legislation to control the chips, not sell them to anybody, and so on and so on. But that isn't going to happen.
So what's next for Tony Thorne? That's the question.
Well, like I said, I'm still writing on and off, and enjoying life.
That's it. Okay.
What is the day of Tony Thorne? I mean, you're a very thinking man. So do you stop and contemplate a lot of your day? And are you in your head most of the day, or are you the kind of guy, besides flushing the toilet, enjoying other things?
I can switch it off,
but
I do a lot of thinking. I mean, it just happens naturally to me. I don't know why, but I've always been like that ever since I was a boy.
And we understand too that your wife is a consummate cook as well.
Yes, true.
I'm going to read it.
Yes, written her own cookbook. Yes,
I'm going to read that as well. I started reading a little bit of it, and it was good. Well, I don't think we should. We only have a couple more minutes left here. Hey, and of course, I know I'd like to let you go to sleep, but I really appreciate you from all the way across the pond there,
Vienna.
Yeah, coming and speaking to us. And where can we reach? Where can people purchase your book?
Amazon.
Okay, and
Amazon, Smashwords, pretty well any of the
Barnes and Nobles, or no?
Yes, oh yes.
Now, are your other publishings on there also?
Which others? Well, if you're in China, you've got a big publisher in China.
Do you find the
Chinese government is publishing my Singularity book?
Do your sales do better in China than in the U.S.?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they love that.
My bestseller is the Singularity book in China.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm very, very fortunate the way it happened.
You sound blessed your whole life.
I've been fortunate taking chances here and there, and not always picking the right thing, but not too bad.
Hey, before we leave, what's it like in Vienna?
Very nice. Today, wonderful, 30 degrees.
Okay.
Yeah, very good. And it's a city of music. We go to the opera.
I'm trying to figure, is that all like radio behind MPZ? What is that?
Oh, that's one of those. It's a very modern one, but it looks like an old one. My wife bought it. I said, "What have you bought that for?" She said, "To listen to the radio. What do you think?"
I think Tony should do a podcast, Pizzi.
I think so too, because I know I'm sure we're going to get a million questions on the YouTube page after this. All asking us, why didn't you ask him this? Why didn't you ask him that? And it's like, we only have an hour. How much could I mean, I want to put the guy on for days. You know, I could go on and on forever.
I should think of a lot better answers to all the questions you've given me. I'm sure I will afterwards.
Well, it is also
being nearly 91. My voice is not what it used to be, and I'm beginning to get a bit forgetful from time to time. It's like somebody once said, I can remember the words to almost every pop tune back in the 60s, but I can't remember what the hell I'm doing in the kitchen.
Yeah, but Tony, that's not mistake, because my mother has dementia. And if you play music,
spare me.
No, my mom has.
I understand. Yeah.
And if you play music, she knows the words to the songs.
Yeah.
It's the craziest thing.
Well, it's ingrained. It's ingrained, isn't it?
And it's the craziest thing.
It's a funny thing, but in almost everything from the 60s and 70s, if you just play the opening bars, I can tell you which one it is. Incredible.
Wow.
And yet, you tell me your name and I've forgotten it 5 minutes later. It's terrible.
That's okay.
C'est la vie. That's old age, you know. It comes and
look, age is a number.
Yeah.
And I always say, never let the old man in.
No, that's right.
That's right.
I don't feel old.
No, you're sharp. You're a sharp man.
Until I stand up.
Well, I also appreciate that you were able to come on this late at night and speak to us.
Appreciate that, Tony.
We'd love to have you come back.
I've enjoyed it very much. You seem to be very nice guys, really.
Awesome. We're happy that you had a good time.
Oh, I did.
Awesome. And okay, so you enjoy yourself, and hopefully we'll meet again somewhere.
Yeah.
And another time, another place.
I'm going to Tony's house to eat dinner.
Me too. If I come to Vienna, I'm gonna look up Tony, because I got to see about them sausages that I got over there, Wiener Schnitzel, all that stuff.
Käsekreiner. Do you know the Käsekreiner?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
I know, I know all about it. You can't see below here.
There are some times when you could die for a Käsekreiner.
Oh, that's great stuff.
Sausage, you can't see below there either.
Great stuff.
Speaking of little sausages, but Tony, again, you're a delightful person. We wish you luck, health, love, and thank you for spending your time with us. And we hope to have you come back in the future.
And this was so good, Pizzi. I don't want to go out together. That's what I want to do. Together.
All right. Where are you? You see, I'm going to push my finger right towards, and
Tony. All right, Pizzi. Till next time, buddy.
I'd love to come again. I really would.
We're going to do that.
Do some more research.
Producer.
Okay, Tony.
Cheers. All the best. Many thanks. Bye.
Help.